into the room. I love how we have AI note takers for our AI Agentic Ethereum event,
That's so funny.
right?
Someday it'll only be AI note takers and no viewers.
Exactly. Just AI note takers talking to each other. Great. We have about maybe 10 more people who are still trying to join this waiting room, so I'm going to give it a moment. Oh, all the AIs are starting to chat with each other. There we go. Awesome. I think we have most people in the room now, and I will continue to admit people throughout if they join in. But welcome, everybody. We're really excited as a part of Agentic Ethereum to go into our next talk, which is by Steph, and she's the head of DevRel at Nillion. And we are going to learn all about Speedrun Nillion's secret vault. So without further ado, feel free to share your screen, and I will go off camera for you to present.
Amazing. Thanks, Valerie. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this session. I'm just going to hide the controls. Today, I'm going to run a session called Speedrun Secret Vault. And just to introduce myself quickly, I'm Steph Orpilla. I'm the head of developer relations at Nillion. And I'm excited for you all to kind of like understand Secret Vault and start building with it during ETH Global Agentic. And just because I know you're all curious, we are giving away $5,000 in prizes for this hackathon. The first set of prizes is for best use of Nillion's Secret Vault. And there's a little star next to that prize because this workshop is all about Nillion Secret Vault, and I'll get you up and running with Nillion Secret Vault really fast so you can use it and integrate it into all of your projects for the hackathon. The other prize is a prize for building an agent framework integration. There's a $1,000 prize for the best framework integration, and that's for anyone who happens to create a library or a developer tool that makes it easier for other developers or users to use Nillion with an agent of your choice. So maybe that's Eliza, maybe that's something on OpenAI. Any type of AI agent framework integration could win that prize. So this one is kind of a wild card and it's more open-ended. And then the other prize, again, there's 4 of them for the best use of Secret Vault, which I'll show you next. Oh, and you can scan this QR code here to learn more about the prizes and understand what you have to do to qualify. But now I want to talk about Nillion's Secret Vault. So Secret Vault is a decentralized storage solution, and it's for keeping sensitive data secret. And it works by storing encrypted shares across a decentralized cluster of nilDB nodes. The reason that Secret Vault is so cool is that your data stays secure. So this is really great if you're building anything with your AI agents that's maybe using user data. So if your agent is storing user data somewhere, it should be stored in a place where user data is kept super secure. This could also be useful if your agents are in a swarm and they're talking to each other and they need to share data with one another, but they don't want to leak that data out because that would create just like a leak where someone else could take in that data and understand what the swarm was doing, and then your product is not as useful potentially. So with Nillion Secret Vault, you encrypt data, and when you encrypt the data, you split it into different shares, and each of those shares is stored in a different Nillion DB node so that any node doesn't see the encrypted data, they just see a share that's meaningless. So that's how we're using Secret Vault to secure data. One of my favorite things about using Secret Vault is it's very easy, in my opinion, to integrate because the way you access and interact with Secret Vault is through easy-to-use APIs. Before Web3, I was in a Web2 development background, and I was always using APIs. So when I came into Web3 and I had to get used to more complex ways of reading and writing, either through clients or through anything else, I found myself missing APIs a lot because it felt so easy to understand how to interact with something. And SecretVault is cool because you can use APIs to create schemas and then read and write data to these schema collections. So that storing and retrieving data feels very familiar and easy. And then the last reason I really like building with SecretVault is because we provide a couple powerful libraries that you can use out of the box. The first library is called NilQL, that's Nil Query Language, and that's for the encryption and decryption of any of that private data that you want to store in SecretVault. The second library is called Nillion SV Wrappers, that's Nillion SecretVault Wrappers, and that's basically a JavaScript NPM package that does a lot of the API calling for you. Because you're writing to multiple nodes, if you were using the APIs directly, you would have to use n number of APIs, one per node. But if you use the wrapper library, it simplifies that. So you just tell the library, oh, I want this node, and that node, these 3 node URLs, and then it handles all of the API calls for you. So that's a little bit about SecretVault. And then the other thing to talk about is NilQL. That was that encryption and decryption secret data library that I was telling you about before. So this is an example of a record that I might want to store inside of SecretVault. It looks like a JSON data payload, but there's a couple things to note. There are these allot markers within the data, and anywhere that allot is will signal to NilQL, the encryption library, that that value needs to be encrypted. So the first value that I want to encrypt is name, that's allotted. So my name will be encrypted in the resulting data. I also want to encrypt the number of years that I've been in Web3. So I also have an allot property there showing this number should be encrypted before it's stored. For rating of the product, imagine that's something that's just in a survey. That's not sensitive to my application, so I don't need to allot that. That can just be stored in plain text. And when NilQL runs on this record, when you encrypt it with the library, this is what the resulting data could look like. So I have 3 different sets of data, and each of these sets has those encrypted properties. So you can see name and years in Web3 in all 3 of these is written with a share. And the shares are different between nodes. So the first node will receive this payload with different shares than the second node, with different shares than the third node. So if someone were to crack the security of one node, they would still have no idea what the name or the number of years in Web3 would be for this record because it's encrypted with a share, and the share is completely meaningless. But when you use NilQL to decrypt or to recombine this record, it will give you this back. So you'll be able to see the name, the years in Web3, and the rating of the product in plain text because it's recombining those shares. And so these 3 records are separately uploaded to one node each of SecretVault. And that's how the data is stored. So to put all of that together, the full flow of using SecretVault is to create either an AI agent or an app. So that's down here. That AI agent or app takes in data. So imagine if you had an agent, you're prompting the user to tell you their name and how long they've been in Web3, and also the rating of the product. So they give you all that information, and then the agent says, okay, I will encrypt those fields. So the agent encrypts the private data fields with the NilQL library. That results in the 3 different encrypted records. And then each of those records is uploaded to a separate NilDB node. And then when you need to decrypt the data or read it, the agent can call the nodes give the pieces of the data, and then you can recombine the 3 pieces to decrypt the data, again with NilQL. And that all happens in a really easy flow through the wrappers. Okay, so now let's actually speed run this flow. So by speed run, I mean we're going to go through the quick start really fast. Oh, I can hear somebody. Does somebody have a question? Okay, cool. So we're going to go through the quick start really fast. You can code along with me if you want. But if you miss anything, you can send a message in Partner Nillion on Discord and I'll look at it afterwards. Or just let me know if anything's unclear and I can stop and address the question. But I'm just going to run through the quick start straight on my machine. Okay. There we go. So I'm just going to go to docs.nillion.com/quickstart. And you can see there's different things that you can start building. So I'm going to click the SecretVault Quick Start because I want to run through this one. So in this quick start, it'll take a little bit about 15 minutes, and we're going to build a privacy preserving data collection for a Web3 experience survey. So within that survey, we're going to have the name and years in Web3 properties, which we will encrypt, and then we'll leave these experience ratings out. We'll just store them in plain text so that anyone can read them if they wanted to. And this is going to be a Node.js project that I create completely from scratch, as it says in the quick start. So let's start building the project. I'm just going to minimize this and I'll keep this on the left side of my screen. And then I have a terminal over here that I'll leave on the right, and I'll also pull up a code editor. So the first thing that we need to do is create a directory for our project. So I'm going to make a directory and I'll cd into that directory. Next, we need to initialize the project. So it's going to be initialized as a module. So I'll npm init es6, and that will just set the type as module inside of the package JSON. The next thing I have to do is install the SV wrappers package. This is the package that manages secret keys and all of the, wrappers. So this is the package that manages all of the keys and also creates JWT API tokens based on your organization config for SecretVault. So I have all of that, and I'm just going to open up Cursor. Since this is agentic, I'm going to use a agent-powered code editor for my project. And I'll just open the terminal at the bottom so that I can do everything within Cursor. Okay, so we've set up the project. The next thing I need to do is create a file that will hold my organization config. So now I have this org config file. Within the quick start, I have a demo organization config that I'll copy into org config. And now let's quickly talk about the org config. So if you are creating an entity to use SecretVault, you'll create an organization. I'm just using the demo organization from the quick start, but you can actually register your own organization, and I recommend that you do this for your projects here in the portal. So you would just use this registration portal. You could start a new organization. You'd enter whatever you want the name to be and select nodes. These are the 3 demo nodes that will be selected for you. And these are actually the nodes that my organization is using as well. So I'm skipping that step because I already have my organization credentials. But along with the organization credentials, I have the node config. The node config contains the URLs and the decentralized identifiers for each of the nodes. And the nodes are what I will be uploading my data to. Each of these nodes will get a different piece of that data, which is why it's important to have the node information inside of the node config, along with the organization. So the organization's secret key is actually what is generating API tokens for each of these nodes, so that inside of SecretVault, you know that the organization is the correct person or the correct entity that's writing to the SecretVault data store. Okay, so we've got our org credentials. The next thing we need to do is actually create a collection schema. So I'll create a file for that, schema.json. This is empty for now, but I'm going to copy the Web3 experience schema into the schema.json. And now we can take a look. So all of the schemas for SecretVault follow the draft 7 JSON schema. And within that, you can add a title for your schema, And then you start to define the shape of the data that you'll be uploading into SecretVault. If you've ever used something like MongoDB, it's very similar to that, where you set all of the properties that you expect to be uploading. So the first thing I'm expecting is an ID. This will always be set for every record. And then I will be uploading a person's name, the number of years they've been in Web3, and then a collection of responses to questions. So each question will have a question number. So like question number 1, question number 2. And the answer to the question will be a rating between 1 and 5. So for my survey that I'm building, I want people to be able to rate their experience, their user experience with different things. So I'm asking them to rate their experience with Solidity, with the UX of wallets, things like that, so that I can get a general understanding of how the UX is improving in Web3 this year. Okay, so previously we were talking about how SecretVault is really cool because you can have secret data inside of the vault. And the way that you mark data inside of the schema to be secret is with share. So if something is a share, it's not the actual name. We're uploading the share of the name. So that is that string. If I go back to my presentation, oops. So if this is the original record, the share is the piece of the encrypted data that's going into the node. And so anything that's going to be encrypted, we're marking with the share, and the type of a share is a string. So you can see that both name and years in Web3 are shares, while the array of responses, the properties are just in plain text. So they're integers, strings, dates, whatever is going into that response array doesn't need to be encrypted. So there's no shares there. Okay. So that's our schema. And in order to start uploading data to the collection, we actually have to first upload the schema to all 3 nodes. So in order to do that, I'm going to create a mini script that will take this schema and actually upload it. So I've created a file, and within this file, I'll just paste in the script, and I'll explain what it's doing. Okay, so this is the script for posting a schema to all of the different nodes. At the top, you can see I'm importing the SecretVault wrappers. That's just the collection that helps do all of the API calls. I'm also importing org config. The org config is what we previously created that has the keys and the identities of all of the nodes so that we know where to upload the schema to. So now that I have all of that, I can run this to create a wrapper and initialize an organization. The org has been initialized with those nodes and also the credentials. And in order to actually create a schema, I have to give the wrapper the schema file, which is the schema.json, and the collection name, which in this case is Web3 Experience Survey. This can be anything you want. It's just so that if you're looking at all your schemas, you can easily understand, oh, that's my experience survey. So after that, you can create the schema and it should upload to all 3 nodes. But let's actually test this out. So I'm just going to run node post schema, which is this file. Awesome. So this was successful and it created a new collection schema for all 3 nodes. So this node, and this node. And you'll also see that the ID of the schema is the same for all 3 nodes. And that's really important because you want to be able to write to the same schema and not have to worry about like, oh, did I use a different ID for one node from the other node? It should all be very consistent so that the only difference between nodes is the encrypted share value. And that's because those need to be different so that when you recombine them, you get the true value. All right. So now we have schemas across all of the different nodes. The next thing we're going to do is create a script to actually interact with the SecretVault data. So that's writing data to our schema collection and then reading data from the schema collection. So let's create one more script, which is index.js. And inside of this script, I'll copy in some things. So the first thing is importing dependencies. We actually don't need the UUID package, so I'm going to leave that out. Oh, the AI is trying to autocomplete for me. I don't want this. Okay, so we're going to import the wrappers package, the same one we did before, and also the org config. The next thing we need to do is create a const for the schema ID, and we can read this straight from the console log of the other script. This is going to be hard-coded to the schema we just uploaded to SecretVault. After that, we'll create a data payload. And this will just be, oops, this will just be some data that we want to post to the schema. So remember that each of the encrypted fields are marked with a lot ahead of time to show that these will be encrypted. And then once they're uploaded to SecretVault, they'll have transformed into shares. So instead of Vitalik, let's say Satoshi Nakamoto, he's probably been in Web3 longer than anyone, maybe 16 years. And I'll just leave his responses to the survey as is. So now we have a data payload and we just have to add the main function. Let's run through this main function quickly. So inside of the main function, the first thing we're doing is initializing a collection using the org config nodes and credentials, and also the schema ID that we hard-coded above here. So now we've initialized a collection for this schema. When we have the collection ready, we can start writing data to the nodes. So this collection function, write to nodes, is coming from that wrappers package, and it's just going to write that data to all 3 nodes in the collection. And then it will log out the new IDs. I'm just going to comment this second part out for now because after we write the data, we can read the data, but I just want us to focus on writing the data to this collection first, and then we'll read the data. Okay, so we have the function and we can run node index.js. This writes data to all 3 of those nodes. So you can see on node 1, it's created this ID. On node 2, it's created the same ID, and on node 3, it's created the same ID. So you can see that it's uploaded this ID to all 3 of those nodes. So the data is successfully in all 3 nodes in the collection. Now let's try reading the data. So I'll comment this out, and we'll just read the data from the collection. I'm going to remove the slice because we didn't actually upload any data right now. So this is just saying, okay, take the collection, read from all 3 nodes. And the reason that this bracket is empty is because we're not actually passing in a filter. If you wanted to, you could filter for different things in plain text. Like maybe you would want to filter for a specific rating to a response. You could do that by passing in a valid filter here. But I'm just going to read the records that are currently inside of the SecretVault. Okay, so we see one record. This is that most recent record. That's just Satoshi Nakamoto. Let's add one more record and then we'll write and read. So maybe this can be Jacob from ETH Global. Famous. I have a feeling he's been in Web3 for like, I'm going to say 10 years. We'll have to ask him afterwards. And we'll say that he gives both questions a 5 because he finds the UX awesome. So going back down, I'm going to comment all of this code back in so that it will read, or excuse me, it'll write Jacob's record to our data collection, and then it'll read all of the decrypted collection data. So we should see both Satoshi's and Jacob's record inside of the logs. So coming up here, the first thing that happened is this wrote to the SecretVault. So it created one new record, 39F, blah, blah, blah. And then when it needs to read, it reads both records that are inside of the SecretVault. So the first record down here is Satoshi, which was previously uploaded. And then we can also see Jacob, which was just uploaded. So you can see that with SecretVault, we were able to encrypt and write data and then read all of the data back because we have that organization secret key that's needed to read and write from SecretVault and also create new schemas. So that's a little bit on SecretVault. I think we just speed ran all of the quick start in, I want to say, less than 10 minutes. So I think this should give you enough to use SecretVault in pretty much any flow that you're doing for your AI agents. If you wanted to do this from scratch yourself, you would just go register a new organization. So you would get your own secret keys for your organization. And then you could start creating collection schemas based on whatever data you want your agent to read and write inside of SecretVault. So that could be user data. Maybe it's shared state between agents so that they know parts of what each other are doing. Maybe it's memory so that if you're creating context for an agent, they have tons of different things to draw from. Anything like that would be an awesome application for using Nillion SecretVault. And oh, one more thing to mention is that if you come and visit us in Discord, we have office hours every single day, twice a day. So one of the office hours is at, I believe it's 10 a.m. European time, and the other office hour is at 10 a.m. PST. So whatever your time zone is, you should probably have at least one office hour every weekday that will work for you. And we would love to hear what you're building and also help if you have any questions. We're really excited to see what you all build. I think that's everything for me, but if anyone has specific questions, you can chime in to the chat and I'll take a look.
Awesome. I do see a colleague of yours possibly answering some questions in here.
Oh, cool.
But someone is asking about your office hours.
Yes. Let me grab the office hours schedule. And I'll paste it into the chat.
Awesome. We have a couple minutes left for any questions. Feel free to drop them in the chat or unmute yourselves for the last couple minutes.
It's so funny to see all the note takers with the takeaways. If I had had this in university, it would have been game over for everyone.
Actually, if I could ask a question just about like, when is the most common use case for using Nylon? Like, I understand like for a survey, but when would either a real company or somebody who is actually developing want to use this tool?
Yeah, we're seeing all kinds of use cases. A lot of them are kind of like in healthcare. A lot of them are doing things with AI agents, games, anywhere basically that you have data that you need to keep secret for some reason. It is a good use case to consider Nillion.
I have a question about data availability, and because when you created organization config, it looks like there's 3 hard-coded nodes. So what in the case if like one node is offline? There's any mechanism to retrieve the data?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me check with my team. I think we have some contingencies for when if a node ever went offline, but the data availability piece is huge. So let me answer that question in Discord so that I get the right answer for you. Unless I see my teammate Nico in the chat. Maybe Nico knows the answer there.
Hey, I believe on our current design that it depends. So we have 2 different ways of securing your data, and let's say that you're using what we're calling the cluster secret key, or the cluster key. The cluster key is going to secret share your data, and all the data is required in order to reconstruct on the client. So if any of the nodes, let's say that you chose, and I know in our particular hackathon cluster, I think we have 3 nodes, but you could have a Nillion NilDB cluster that has 30 nodes, and you chose 20 of them, and one of them is missing, you cannot reconstruct your shares. This is just kind of a trait of the way that I think we're just doing XOR sharing or summation sharing. So, but if you use I think we're calling it the secret key. The secret key uses a homomorphic encryption friendly version of encryption with the key or with key material that you manage, and effectively the each one of the databases is going to have a clone. So you could imagine, for availability wise, that you'll have greater. I mean, it's a trade-off on the features, but you'll have like greater high availability if you use the secret key strategy. So the answer is yes and no, depending on which route that you go.
All right, I think we had one more person raising their hand, but I don't see it anymore. Feel free to come off mute and ask your question. We might have time for one more.
Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Bal. Okay, Steph and Nico. My question is, well, it's a little bit of a mix in regards of the secret key that some of the partners here already asked. In my project, my teammates and I were thinking about perhaps using Nillion just for, let's say, keep secrets, variable secrets. But you mentioned about that oftentimes one of the use cases on Nillion could be for keeping secrets data related to healthcare in this regard, or project is related to veterinary healthcare. So we might want to do that to a certain extent. So there is a specific situation that you could talk about on how this could be implemented on that regard.
I think I caught your question. You said you're doing something with veterinary healthcare, and you wanted to know if that would be a good use case?
Yeah, exactly. Because one of the things that we would like to add is, for example, let's say that I'm going just to give you the context. Oftentimes, veterinaries tries to make the challenge of ask the right questions to the owners in order to understand what are the current situation of the pet. And oftentimes owners, due to, let's say, perhaps they don't want to take full responsibility of pet care, or they are really afraid for their pets and ended up to discard important possible diagnosis within the observations that they could provide as an input. Within this, the veterinaries would need, to a certain extent, have law control over that owner between other colleagues within the platform, just to understand if that pet owner is troublesome or not. It's some sort of like, let's say, validation on the professional side to just be aware from colleague to colleague about that specific owner. I don't know if you catch the idea there.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I caught some of the idea. One thing that it made me think of was maybe, I know if I've taken my pet to the vet, it feels like I talk to 2 to 3 separate people. Like I talk to a different person when I check the pet in versus the vet, and sometimes I forget what I've told each person. So potentially a use case could be storing all of that information that the person has used inside of SecretVault. And then maybe you could combine all of those text records to give your AI agent context each time someone prompts. And maybe you could say to the agent in the training, like, go through everything this person said and capture the most important pieces that could impact the animal's health, something like that. Would that make sense for you?
Yeah, it does. I guess I'm going to work over that idea that you provide me, and perhaps I'm going to catch up in Discord just to ask further more if any doubt.
Yeah, awesome. And like I said, we'll be on Discord all week, but we also have 2 synchronous office hours each weekday. So you can talk to us either place.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And again, this was Steph, the head of DevRel with Nillion. You can reach out to them and their team on Discord, and we look forward to seeing all the projects built with Nillion. Thank you so much, everybody.